Hello, welcome to Steel City Business, the Sheffield business podcast. I'm James Marriott. I'll be your host as we explore the vibrant business scene of the glorious city of Sheffield. Now, in each episode, we meet someone from across the Steel City to learn more about them and, of course, their business. I run my own business. It's called Sound Media, and it's all about helping brands to amplify their voice through audio marketing. If you want to find out more, then head to the show notes. There's more information there. And this podcast is supported by the lovely people at The Curious, creative agency in the centre of Sheffield. Now, if you'd like to get in touch with us, maybe to suggest a guest or for any reason, then there are contact details in the show notes, or head to steelcity.business. Right, that's enough of that. Let's meet our guest.
Hi, I'm Giorgio Cassella. I am the Managing Director of Evoluted, a full-service digital agency here in Sheffield, and I'm also the host of Sheffield DM, a marketing meetup for marketing professionals here in Sheffield.
And I'm Sam Biggins. I'm also Managing Director at Evoluted and share the post with Giorgio.
Thank you for joining us on Steel City Business. We're here in your very grand boardroom, which is it's a great setting for recording a podcast. We're going to talk a bit about podcasts because we are a matter of yards away from your very own podcast studio, which will come later in the conversation. For anyone that doesn't know who Evoluted are and what you do here, just fill us in a little bit.
We started in 2006, almost 18 years ago now, as a web development agency. And I don't know, it's a bit of an age test for people. We started out by building the website for Weebles stuff, so badges.
Right.
Yeah. It works for you. I don't know how many people listening are going to go, what the hell are you on about?
I think there's
I
a
get
few.
so many blank faces in pictures now when you bring it up.
Use it when I'm recruiting people and they just look at you and you go, no, you're not a good fit. You're too young.
You make me feel really old now.
But yeah, we started out building that website for Weeble stuff and the web videos they produced way back when. That evolved into, two-person agency starting, doing web development. That evolved, moving from Chesterfield here to Sheffield. And the company's grown over time, introducing marketing as a service about 10 years ago. Yeah. Grown since then, and we're now 40 people doing, web design, digital marketing services for clients across the UK, multinationally, tons of different really exciting industries, tons of different really exciting projects, a great team that do phenomenal work every day, and loads more exciting things on the horizon, which I'm sure we'll get to speak about today.
Sam, give us a bit of an idea of the kind of things that you do then, the kind of projects that you work on.
We always go to meetings and everyone goes, what do you do? And they go, what industry do you specialise in? And I have to be the person that goes, we don't believe in specialising in one industry. We're sector agnostic, generally platform agnostic, and being full service allows us to really take advantage of that and apply stuff from one sector into another sector, which go from everything from your standard e-commerce sites all the way to managing the IT systems behind dog shows.
Wow, right, okay.
Yeah, so a real range of products.
We could have talked about dog shows for the next half an hour now.
Absolutely.
No.
I'm now an expert in everything you need to know about dog shows.
I could only think of one dog show.
Yeah. It's not the one you're thinking of.
It's not the one I'm thinking of.
No, they do almost all the others, just not Crufts.
Right, okay. We'll move on from dog shows. That could be a separate podcast episode for another day. Digital marketing, right? It's a phrase that gets knocked around a lot in this day and age. There's a lot of businesses that will class themselves as digital agencies or digital marketing agencies. Some do similar stuff, some do different stuff. It seems that it's a phrase that's applied to a lot of different things now. What does digital marketing mean to you? I'm asking you this, both of you this question, and what do you think of the space of digital marketing in 2024?
Oh, going straight in with the deep philosophical stuff today, James.
What does digital marketing mean to you?
I think that there is a great offering in digital marketing in the UK, both for, the talent that we've got working across companies in-house, across a huge range of sectors, the massive range of different agencies that we've got working in this industry as well. My biggest gripe with digital marketing nowadays is the significantly low barrier to entry for people to get into it. I come from a very academic marketing background, so I did a proper marketing degree where we learn about all the theory. We've done Porter's 5 Forces. We've done the 4, 5, 6, 7 Ps. Don't know how many there are now. But so many people come into marketing now through different routes. People come in that are English graduates. I know people that are history graduates, people that worked in manufacturing before transitioning to marketing. And it's great that there's that low barrier to entry and people can transition into it. But at the same time, it means they come in with a lack of the theoretical skills behind it. And that's my biggest gripe with marketing in 2024, I think, is talented people that know their channels really well, but completely lack the fundamentals and understanding how marketing works for a business and with commercials in mind.
Fair enough. I like the fact we're 5 minutes in and we're already on to gripes.
Yeah.
This is good.
I should have started with the positive. I love marketing. It's great.
No, screw the positives. Sam, what does digital marketing mean to you?
Very little. I come from a engineering background and the development side of Evoluted. So over the last year or two of being MD, I've had to frantically go on every crash course I can to understand that people pour money into this thing which there's not always a direct outcome from. And as a developer, I really struggle with, you've asked someone, did that work? And everyone goes, oh, yes, maybe. And there's always that saying, isn't there? 50% of marketing works and 50% doesn't. You just don't know which worked. So I'm still frantically learning marketing.
Fair. I did want to ask you a bit about your respective backgrounds and what led you here, because you've not always been managing directors of the business. It was previously a different version of Evoluted, and then you guys took over. So tell us a bit about your respective backgrounds and how you kind of found yourself running the business.
So I joined Evoluted in 2012 as a graduate developer. So I'd done a master's in software engineering. Thought I knew everything coming out of university. I think it took me about an hour and a half into my first job to realise that I hadn't got a clue. And all throughout university, I'd freelanced. I've worked at some big sites. I worked on Jessica Ennis's site during the 2012 Olympics. Cool. And it still turned out I knew nothing when I got into the real world. And throughout the years, I've worked at Evoluted. I went off for a couple of years in the startup world. And what kept coming back to is really fascination with how the mechanics of the business worked, how the people, the team dynamics and everything like that. So I carried on developing for years and years and then worked myself up to a head of development role and really focused from there on making teams work really efficiently and trying to get to the root of what the problem is. Mm-hmm. Every time we go to see a new client, I try to get to the point where I've irritated them enough by asking why that they're almost ready to lynch me.
And that's when you pull out the contract.
And that's when I pull out the contract and go, this is why you need to pay us. Yeah.
If you sign the contract, I'll stop asking.
Stop asking, yeah. Fair. No, always need to get to the root cause because people ask for something which isn't what they need or they're not sure if it's what they need. So I will keep asking why and keep digging until I get to really what the fundamentals behind it are.
I like that.
Got me in some trouble.
A long meandering story for me, if we want to ask how we got to this position. Going back to what I said before about people coming from different backgrounds, I had no interest in going into marketing when I started it. I actually went into 3D environment design to start working on video games. Until I realised the hours were long and the pay was shit and decided, no, I don't want to do this anymore. And it just so happened that instead of having to reapply and go through UCAS all over again to start a new course, I could just transition onto this other course, which was business management and marketing. Business management bit was the appropriate BS that you'd normally expect, but I found the marketing bit incredibly interesting and it turned out I was actually quite good at it. Graduated university and during my time there did a placement with the university with their online learning department, which operated all over the world, and it was a great opportunity for me to understand how different methods of marketing are working and different channels of marketing are working in different countries, different geographies and to different audiences. So I spent about a year and a half straight after graduating working with that online learning team, doing media buying and buying adverts in print magazines, on billboards, on digital spaces, working on SEO, PPC, website content, this whole mix of both physical and digital media all across the world, working with brands in Australia, in the Middle East, in Hong Kong, in Africa, in Canada, the US, and of course the UK. But that gave me this massive exposure to so many different things, and it's an experience that I'm immensely grateful for in forming the marketer that I am today. After having a year and a half of that, I got quite bored and decided, actually, I quite like the idea of being into tech and startups and all that sexy entrepreneurial stuff, and moved to Sheffield to join a early stage startup in the edtech space, Tutorful, as they're known now, different name at the time. I was their first marketing employee, and there were about 4 or 5 of us in a pokey little office down at the workstation at the time. Lots of fond memories of that place being crammed into a little room that smelled a little bit of damp on the wrong days. And there I got more exposure to doing things like SEO and PPC, but on a much grander scale, really diving in and spending hundreds of thousands of pounds doing SEO with boilerplate tactics and all sorts of more programmatic, interesting tactics across, hundreds of thousands of locations in the UK, with loads of tutors that we worked with, loads of students that we worked with, different subjects, different age groups, and being able to combine all these things together and put some really clever, intricate marketing campaigns in place across the whole marketing funnel. Yep. And that was a really exciting experience. And then the opportunity at Evoluted came up to join the agency side of things after being in-house for 3 or 4 years at that point, seeing the other side of the coin, coming to agency life and working with lots of different clients in a much faster paced environment. I say that I did come from startups, so it wasn't actually that much faster paced. If anything, it was a break. But yeah, it was a great opportunity for me to come here and start doing that, doing the thing I loved, which was technical SEO. And then, things progressed from there. The existing marketing manager left. Based on my past experiences leading marketing teams at Tutorful, I was able to step up into that role and start running the team here. And as time's gone on, Evoluted's grown, our client base has grown, our employee roster's grown, stepped up to be marketing director, brought in a kind of middle management leadership team that are doing an amazing job, bringing that specialist knowledge to each of our teams here at Evoluted, and then stepping up and taking the co-MD role with Sam 18 months ago. When Ash welcomed, new baby to the family and decided that there were other priorities for him in life than running the agency.
I mean, I should, full disclosure at this stage, I should say that we do some work together on a podcast side of things, which we will come to a little bit later on. But what I've always been struck by with you guys is the fact that you're very normal, very down to earth. And I think sometimes when you think about digital agencies, you think about very flamboyant leaders who are screaming and shouting all the time and have this vision, but necessarily like their brain can't keep up with what they're doing, or vice versa, or something like that. Whereas you guys just certainly come across, and the work that I've done with you, very down to earth. I want to kind of try and imagine the day when Ash took you into a meeting room and said, "Yeah, I want you guys to run the company." What was that? What was that like? How were you expecting that? Was it something that had been talked about? Take us back to that moment.
He used us in very gently. So about 6 months to a year before we took over the role, about a year before, wasn't it? He decided that he was going to buy a new house and it needed a bit of work on it, right, which I'm sure you can relate to. So he was going to take a bit of time off to do that, starting in January 2022. First month, I think we saw more of Ash than we normally did.
Right.
Didn't quite manage to step away for the first month.
Yeah, difficult for him to let go.
And then it got to month 2, February, and off he went, did a bit more on the house, etc. March, a bit more, turned into a bit more of a project than he expected.
What was supposed to be a 3-month sabbatical turned into 8 months.
Yeah. So by that point, we'd already been doing an awful lot of the job without having the title, because he was taking a sabbatical and we were essentially covering a good chunk of it. There were a lot of areas he was still in control of.
Yep.
And then one day he pulled us into a meeting and said, got something to tell you, I'm not coming back.
Right.
And that was why it wasn't. It
was that casual, yeah. It was just a very, almost the way you described it, James. It was sit down, this is happening. Okay.
Yeah.
And it wasn't much more than that, really. I think that's
I think that was about it. And it was the day before I went on holiday. Yeah. So it was like, go think about it and let me know.
Yeah.
That's quite a lot to think about when you sat
there.
Yeah,
it was, yeah.
And how did you find that then? Because I guess, kind of like, I don't know, sort of temporarily looking after things for someone is one thing. But then kind of the idea that it's up to you guys, it's your vision, it's where you want to take things, feels like quite a step up, and almost it could easily be a little bit overwhelming. So what was that like?
Overwhelming.
Yeah. We're done here.
Fair enough.
It was quite overwhelming. Like when we were essentially babysitting before that.
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden it's yours and every decision's yours. We still answer to Ash in the form of a board.
Yep.
But I think that makes it even more daunting in some ways.
Yeah, there's somebody to come back to and that you to justify yourself.
Yeah.
That still exists. Adds the pressure.
Yeah. But also really exciting. Like, it was our opportunity we've been pushing certain agendas for a while up to that point, like certain initiatives we want to run, bits we want to get on with. And it was essentially Ash going, here are the keys. Off you go.
Yeah, we'd both been instrumentally driving how the different sides of the business developed in terms of the pod and squad structure that we have on the development side of things, on introducing the specialist marketing teams on the marketing side of the business. So we'd already been making those kind of decisions and forming those initiatives that were going to drive the future of the company, 12 months before this even happened.
Yeah.
And I think it was just a very strong vote of confidence in us for Ash to sit down and actually say, yep, here's the keys, crack on. You're doing a great job. Trust you to take the company forwards with the vision that we've set out, that we know we want to achieve. You're doing a great job and we're making great progress towards it already. So keep going.
Yeah. It also wasn't a drastic change. It was the same vision that Ash had set out. He set out a 5-year vision. So a lot of it was following that and the same values we already had in place.
Absolutely, yeah. It was that vision that we were already bought into and passionate about as individuals already. So it was a no-brainer to try and keep pushing forwards to that. If anything, both of us love working in an agency, leading an agency in the agency space. And if you have the option of go away, start from scratch, 2 people in a pokey little office again, trying to build up client roster, reputation, employees, everything that goes into building an agency, of which there is a lot, or with the people that we know and we trust and we know have incredible skills already, and being able to take them and lead them in this new direction, this stronger direction towards, the first step on the goal of that 5-year vision, and then whatever might come next, which, there's grand things in the future. It was an exciting proposition and one that we weren't really going to turn down.
I want to ask you a bit about the values, the culture, the vision. Before we move on to that, I guess anyone that makes a step up from a role to a higher role has this kind of issue sometimes, that they might find themselves managing someone that they were an equal to in the not too distant past. You kind of had that a little bit on steroids, I guess, in terms of the fact that the people that you were part of a team with, you then find yourself becoming the ultimate boss or bosses. What was that transition like in terms of people having, knowing the buck stops with you guys, they answer to you? What was that transition like?
I think multiple of the development side of the business told me that they'd never want my job. So we're very thankful that I'd taken it over and not them.
Well, it's an interesting
way of putting it, yeah.
Oh, I wouldn't want that.
I wouldn't want that, yeah.
Rather you than me.
Rather you than me. Which for me is great, like, that I love this job. I love being able to shape the industry and make a real difference. I've always joined small companies because of the impact you can have.
Yep.
I don't think it was a really weird transition for me.
Nor for me. I don't think it even came to mind once. I think I just got on with it. I didn't really put too much thought into how does this affect the dynamic in the relationships. Naturally, it has. Yeah, of course. You couldn't have that change without those relationships being affected in one way or another. But
sure,
I don't think I remember noticing a tangible change or making a conscious change of how I did things, which I think, talking about culture and things, feeds nicely into the culture we have here and the hierarchy that we have, but also it's a very flat structure. It's a very collaborative structure where everybody's voice does count.
I suspect that would probably be the answer, which is why I wanted to ask that before then moving on to talk a bit more about culture and values and vision and what it is that you stand for and what it is that you're trying to create, because I get that impression when I hang around here that it isn't kind of like a so-and-so's in charge and then there's this kind of this structure and there's this in place and there's that in place. That does feel very collaborative, does feel very much like it's a pretty open forum and everyone's involved with everything, even down to the fact you work very flexibly in terms of people in the office, people working remotely, and I know a bit about that setup, but I'm guessing people listening to this probably don't. So yeah, tell us a little bit more then in terms of the culture here, in terms of what it is that you're trying to build internally, but then also a little bit in terms of the vision for where you want to take the business.
We are firmly people first, people over profits. It's all about the people. That's something that just naturally developed from the very first days of the company when the first people started joining Evoluted. Ash started this business because he loved tinkering with all things digital and loved working with people to do it. So bringing people on board to work at an agency and seeing them as friends, not colleagues, was a huge benefit for him. It was exactly what he wanted from running a business. Yep. But that became a core part of our culture. As we grew, as we went from 2 people to 5 people to 10 people to 20 and now to 40, that's always been there of seeing other people not just as work colleagues where you go, have you got the report ready for me this week, Jervis? It's, how was your weekend? What's going on? Let's go to the pub. Let's, go and enjoy these awards together. Let's collaborate on this client project or on this proposal or this report or anything else. And it's genuinely enjoying having people around you and caring about them. But that's something that has then developed and been a core part of every single thing we do, whether we make decisions about hiring, about clients, about renovating the office, about the kind of work we do on a pro bono basis, about how we portray ourselves externally and brand ourselves as a company. It's all about being people first, respecting the people around us, caring about the people around us and making sure that they're at the heart of everything we do.
Yep. It's also very different to the typical within our industry. Everything we do is in our industry is around the people and the skills they bring to it as a service-based industry. And yet, so many agencies out there, and I probably lump it as far as 90% of agencies, very much do bring people in, churn them up, spit them out.
Yeah.
And we've always had the value of being different to that. We want to make sure people are here for the long term.
Yep.
At 10 years, everyone gets a trip to New York as part of the tenure. We've recently put in for a submission for an award or a certification, and we were told that's not a valid perk because no one gets 10 years. I think we've sent about 6 or 7 people so far.
Yep, it's expensive, but we've done it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because we've got that many people who stay the long term.
Which has got great retention.
Yeah.
Does the same offer apply to contractors?
Well, if we work with you for 10 years, we'll talk. I had a career break and it's really hindered my trip.
You'd be getting very close now if you hadn't had that break.
Yeah.
Would you?
Did you reset to 0?
Yeah, reset to 0.
No claims bonus. You have to go back to 0. Right, okay.
Yeah, it's a real kicker.
You mentioned the office refit in there. I'm not going to ask you about that because I know you've got a podcast episode about that. But I am going to ask you about people first, even though you also have a podcast episode about that as well. We will talk about your podcast in a bit. Yeah, so I've actually sat in with you guys when you recorded an entire podcast episode about people first and what it means, because it's one of those phrases that gets knocked around a lot. It's become quite cool for businesses to say we're people first. And yet what it actually means, or whether it's just a little bit of a PR move, that'll make us sound quite good, we're people first. I know when you say that you really mean it, that it's got some substance behind it. So what does being people first actually mean?
It's definitely a term that gets thrown around and used in a way that it becomes a bit bullshitty.
Yep.
For us, it means putting the people at the centre of every decision we make. And in some cases, it's misinterpreted as that's just our employees, but it flows further than that into our community, our stakeholders, into our clients, and making sure everything we do is a people-centric decision. So it's not about just giving all our staff a raise as soon as we've got any money in the business. It might be looking at how we can invest that money into the community, run community events like our Sheffield DM conference every year, and have a better impact on the people around us.
It's a real longhand way of doing things, though, isn't it? Like, there's easier ways of running a business.
Easier ways of running.
Being genuinely people first sounds like hard work, probably more expensive than other ways of doing things.
It's not the way to make a quick buck. It almost is you investing in your 10-year forecast. It'll come back at some point if you look after your community, you help people grow, you train people up. All those things will come back at some point and benefit you. But it's not going to make you anything in the short term. It's probably going to cost, it does cost us a lot more money than it could to run an agency. But the whole point of it is to be here for more than just making some money and making a quick buck and running away.
It's more than just min-maxing those resources and seeing people as resources that you can just whip and get to do the work as fast as possible, as hard as possible, to make as much money as possible at the end of the day. It blends into everything we do. We only look at utilising our staff to about 60 to 75% of their available time, because they've got other things to do and other interests and training and development, and taking the time to go and have a piss and make a cup of tea takes time out of your day, and respecting that is part of being a person is one of those fundamental bits of it. It sounds ridiculous and it's something to laugh at, it really is, but so many people forget about this when they're looking at just churning as much work out as possible from as few people to pay as possible.
I've got a friend who has to do 37.5 hours of billable work every week.
Right.
And as a result, anything which is admin, writing reports, logging their time, anything else has to come out of their overtime, which they're not paid for. And that happens a lot in agencies. Mm-hmm. Everyone ends up overworked. You'll be talking about 45-hour weeks just to get your standard work done.
I was smirking in there for a couple of reasons, partly because I have a really bad tendency to have a day where I'm like, right, I'm just going to have meetings on this day. And I book back-to-back Zoom meetings and I forget to leave time to go to the toilet. Yeah. So I have to book in, literally in my diary, I have to book in toilet break so that no one can book like through my Calendly link to do that. Because I've had it before where I'm literally from one to the other. I said, before we start talking, I'm really sorry, I'm going to have to go for a wee. Like, I will actually wee myself if I don't go and do this. So yeah, good call to think about stuff like that. You might not want to answer this, and I'm going to be careful in terms of how I phrase it, but you must be aware of and you must see businesses, some very successful businesses, that say this stuff, but you know that actually they're not doing it. Like, they're doing it the quick and easy way, but making it look like they really care about their people, making it look like they really buy into these values. That must be quite frustrating when you're doing it the proper way, as I said earlier, like the longhand way. There's a million ways in which you could do this and make life easier for yourself, but you've chose to do it the longhand way. So that must be frustrating, I guess, when you see those businesses that aren't, but like to portray that they are.
For me, it's they can do what they like. Like, at some point, they're going to get caught out, and we know we're in it for the long term, and we'll just stick to our lane.
That's it. Time's going to tell. Their employees are going to vote with their feet, and if they are having those underhand practices, clients will churn, employees will turn. They'll say, "No, I've had enough of this. I'm going to go somewhere else." So carry on. Keep with those practices. If you can't respect people, the people will leave you, and they'll go and they'll look and they'll talk about who does care about people. Evoluted cares about people. Many other companies care about their people, genuinely care about them. So it is frustrating to see, because it brings a bad reputation in general to the industry when we see other agencies doing it. And part of our mission and our values is to build a better standard of agency, and demonstrate that this whole snake oil salesman churning people in the revolving door and getting them in, then back out once they've served their purpose, isn't how it needs to be. So yeah, frustrating, but whatevs.
Okay. We'll move on to a happier note. Tell me a bit about your favourite projects that you've worked on.
I think we did a really cool one last year for Roundabout Limited, who are a youth homelessness charity here in Sheffield, and it was to build a website to promote the Bangers and Cash art trail.
Yeah, I remember that.
Simple premise is everyone buys a cheap old banger of a car, and they have to drive across Europe, not race. They make it very clear you're not allowed to race. And as part of that, all the bonnets are nicely done up as artwork by local artists. They drive them to Munich, challenges along the way. And then at the end of it, the bonnets have been put on display around Sheffield City Centre, and then auctioned off. Each team raises money as part of the rally. We entered a team as part of it as well, and I think we were around the $6-7 grand mark in fundraising in the end.
Yeah, so awesome. Good amount of money.
Yeah.
And then we bought our bonnet back as well at the end of it as well, which was another undisclosed amount of money.
So I'm surprised it's not like displayed pride of place on the wall.
It's downstairs. We'll show you. We'll give you the tour on the way out,
Excellent,
James.
excellent.
Yeah. Anybody that wants to come and check it out, have a knock on the Evoluted office door and you can come and see the bonnet.
We've teased 2 or 3 times now about your own podcast. which I don't know for certain when this episode of this podcast will come out. So your podcast might already be out there in the
hopefully it will
in the
be.
Wild by then.
If we pull our fingers out.
Tell us a bit about that then.
People Over Pixels is a podcast exploring the human side of running a digital business. Everything we've been talking about here, really, about what it means to be people first, about how you can care for people in different ways, how you can genuinely run your business with people at its heart, caring about them, and just going and talking about all sorts of cultural issues, things that happen in our industry and industries beyond. So everything from, how you develop culture internally, how awards industries affect different companies and different perceptions of companies, how, different management styles can affect teams in different ways, all the stuff we're learning as we've gone through these different stages of being employees, being kind of middle management, stepping up and running the company, the mistakes and the cock-ups we're making along the way as well. It's a real transparent view of everything that we're learning. So,
yes, it's very much designed as almost a journal of how our leadership's going. I think the mistakes are a key part of it, that there's a million ways to run a business and no one's got the playbook that works yet, especially in the agency space. So it's our journey, how we're getting along with it. The mistakes we make is probably going to be 90% of the episodes we do.
I don't think we make that many mistakes.
Speak for yourself. The lessons we learn along the way.
Lessons we've learned.
Yeah.
The friends we've made are the lessons we've learned.
Yeah.
The production's particularly good. I must.
Yeah, whoever's editing the podcast is an absolute genius. Yeah. No, it's designed for people that are in similar positions. Business leaders, entrepreneurs, managers to, help hopefully evolve and develop their own style of thinking about these things as well by listening to our journey and what we've got to say. And hopefully they'll enjoy it. They'll reach out to us. They'll have conversations with us because we always love meeting people. That's part of it. It's let's not BS here. It's a marketing tactic for Evoluted. We want to get out there. We want to talk to more people. We want to engage with people. We genuinely love meeting people. If you hadn't got that bit already, we do like people, and launching the podcast and getting out to speak to people like that is just another way of achieving that goal.
Real. Okay. What comes next then? What's next for Evoluted? What's in the plan?
I've got a very special announcement for you today, James.
Ooh.
It's probably, depending on when you release this episode, may already be public knowledge, but if not, then it's a special release for you. But we have completed our B Corp accreditation, which is a huge thing for us. The last 18 months, myself, Sam, and our CSR officer, Matt, have been working towards the accreditation, getting ourselves recognised for the work we've done over the years, building Evoluted up into a company that does care about society, people, the planet, and how we can use our business as a force for good.
We're really proud of it. It's one of those things which is still gaining a little momentum.
Yep.
You'll have noticed it on loads of packaging. There's a little B on them,
Yep.
but it's still not massively known. But the crux of it is it's about recognising businesses that are sustainable in their practices towards their communities, towards the environment, towards their team. And that's something we're incredibly proud of.
Yeah, something we're really passionate about, something that we're proud to keep doing. And becoming part of the B Corp community just means that we've now got another way to reach people with that similar mindset, that care about the same things as us, and have a forum to be able to talk to them about those things, and know that we can learn from them and vice versa about how to keep these things advancing, keep getting better at it, and hopefully encourage more people to start thinking about this stuff, even if they don't join the movement immediately.
Brilliant. Fast becoming the most popular part of this podcast, the end. But before that, the infamous final question. You guys obviously now doing your own podcast, the stuff that you're talking about all the time. What I'm interested in doing with this show is just a little bit digging a little bit deeper with people and finding out a little bit about maybe the stuff that you don't talk about so much publicly. So question to both of you really, what are you really passionate about that you've never really talked about before in a public arena?
I'll go first.
You go first.
It looks like you're struggling.
Yeah.
You really, baffled me with this one, James, because I've listened to a couple of other episodes where you've asked people this question and they always seem to have amazing things to talk about. And I went, Jesus Christ, I'm a boring person, aren't I?
Definitely what's going through my mind right now.
But I think one thing that talking about it in a public forum and something I'm really passionate about and something I really care about, quite simply is video gaming. It's been a huge part of my life since I was, yay high, old enough to pick up a old controller on, the N64 way back when. And that's been a huge part of everything I do, even now as an adult. People I meet, people I spend time with, the passions and interests that I like to pursue outside of work. It even blends into things like Sheffield DM, where we bring Mario Kart along on the SNES for people to play, and we have a little bit of a tournament that runs each year to see who can get the fastest lap time. Like, video games are a great way to bring people together, and it's something I'm incredibly passionate about. I tried launching a little side project a few years ago called Agency Esports, then became called Afterwork GG, which essentially tried to get businesses to put teams together to compete in, I say esports tournaments, it's much less grand than that. Basically just, quick games against each other to have a bit of fun, meet new people and raise money for charity. And that first tournament raised about 3-4 grand for a number of different charities. So local ones here in Sheffield, as well as, your more well-known charities like RSPCA, etc. But something I'm incredibly passionate about. I do still see the potential for things like video gaming to bring people together that way and achieve great things. And you never know, watch this space, it might come back.
I love that. That passion definitely came through there. Sam, same question.
I think for me, it's everyone should learn to code. It allows you to cut so many corners. You watch people do everything in really slow ways and repetition, and learning to code the basics really allows you to massively speed up workflows. And there's so many inefficiencies in work. We go into businesses and look at digital transformation projects, and if everyone had just a little bit of coding experience in them, we probably wouldn't be needed in half those companies, because you could have such an unfair advantage on your competitors by just teaching a little bit of coding within your teams.
A little bit like speaking a bit of Spanish before you go to Spain.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Similar.
Exactly.
Make sure you can order a beer.
Yeah.
Just learn the basics.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We will include a link to your podcast in the show notes, and look forward to hearing the many and varied topics that you'll be talking about in the weeks and months to come. But it's been really good to chat to you today, and thank you for your time.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks, James.
Thanks very much for listening to this episode of Steel City Business. It's been really lovely to have you with us. Now, you know how this works. If you've enjoyed it and you want in on future episodes, then just follow us on your podcast app or on YouTube. The show is very active on LinkedIn. Just search for Steel City Business and come and connect with me as well while you're at it. Big thank you to The Curious for helping make this podcast happen. There's loads more about the show at steelcity.business, and you can get in touch by emailing James at steelcity.business. And hey, if you're in business in Sheffield, then, well, why not put yourself forward as a guest for a future episode? And of course, we're always open for a good chat about how audio marketing could work for your brand. Until next time, thanks for listening.